Housing association wants me to pay my late auntie's debt? No, pay me the money I overpaid instead. Not 100% sure if this is malicious compliance, but it feels like it's that sort of nature. Also, apologies for the length and formatting. I'm on mobile. Before I lived in my current place, I was living with my auntie. She was the main tenant who sorted the bills, and I would pay her a lump sum each month as board payments. In early 2021, she passed away unexpectedly. Naturally, I didn't want to continue living in this place. Bad memories and bearing the responsibility for an entire place alone wasn't feasible for me financially at the time. After speaking with the housing association, I was informed the only way to end the tenancy would be by getting the tenancy agreement moved over into my name before terminating the tenancy when I was ready to move out. What I didn't know at this point was that my auntie was in arrears on the rent payments. When it came to the point of leaving the tenancy, I had money in savings and just settled up the rent entirely, paying £500 of my auntie's arrears on top of the rent I personally owed from living there alone. I then stayed at the place for a few more weeks before closing the tenancy. In hindsight, I probably should have queried the payment, but at that point I just wanted rid of the place. After moving into my new place, I was getting pestered by the housing association, who said I still owed £300 on the previous house. There was a lot of back and forth before I then asked for a copy of the rent statement. It was around this time that I was speaking to people about this money I supposedly owed. I was informed that I probably shouldn't be liable for my auntie's debt as I didn't receive the estate and was not the next of kin. However, there was also an argument to be made that I was liable for the debt as technically my name was on the agreement and I became the main tenant. With this information in mind, I looked at the rent statement, worked out how much money I owed from the first week after my auntie had passed, and deducted it from my total rent payments made after that point. It turned out I had paid £200 extra. Assuming I wasn't liable for the debt, I presented all my working out in a thorough email and sent it over. I didn't hear anything back from them after that conveniently and assumed it was all over. I decided not to pursue this as I was sick of being pestered by them and I wasn't 100% sure if I was or wasn't liable for this money. Fast forward nearly 2 years. I received a letter last month just before Christmas stating that I still owed this £300 and that it would be sent to debt collectors if nothing was done. At this point I was pissed off. I spoke to someone who was able to tell me for sure that I am not liable for the debt in this particular situation. So I sent a firmly written email detailing how I don't owe this money but in fact they owed me. Provided all the evidence and threatened small claims if the situation wasn't rectified soon. It took weeks of me pestering them via phone calls and emails for me to get in contact with a lovely woman who apologized on behalf of the company on how I was treated. She then got the ball rolling and eventually my £200 refund cleared the other day. This was a particularly satisfying end because if they would have just left it I wouldn't have chased it up and they would be £200 better off. What a shame. Sounds like they got off easy. Good for you for sticking up for yourself. I was informed the only way to end the tenancy would be by getting the tenancy agreement moved over into my name before terminating the tenancy when I was ready to move out. This isn't how it should work at all. I have no idea what the housing association employee who told you that was smoking should have taken them to court for back interest on the money. I have a similar story with the IRS. Long, short. They said I owed them. I redid the work. They owed me. Had they left me alone, they could have kept the overage. Should have turned them over to collections for the 200. Did you check your credit so they didn't report you for having a late payment for all those years? You shouldn't have given them a dime. Sounds like they owe you another couple of hundred for repeat filings and administration. So, they got your money interest-free for over 2 years? If you were a dick you would have went after interest. Had a former landlord come after me months after I moved out to say I had unpaid bills. When I told them that no, I cleared my balance when I moved out, and asked why this was only being brought up months later. They said they didn't have any accountants at the time, and their new guy just got a handle on it and found more bills apparently tied to me that they'd be sending to collections if I didn't pay them. How the hell is it my problem that you can't manage your books? Turns out it isn't. I responded by telling them that A, I had paperwork showing we had a clean balance at the time of move out, and B, that demanding further payments this long after the agreement had terminated was unlawful. They've not bothered me since. The way it works here is that they can legally take the deceased person's possessions to make up for the debt. They cannot legally pin the debt on someone else. Your debt dies with you. Unless it's a mortgage or car payment. Then they foreclose on the house or repossess the car. All you had to do was pack your own stuff and leave the rest and you'd have been in the clear. They're just lazy and don't want to go through the process of having an estate sale. So they try to get you to pay it so they can just chuck the stuff out to the trash and get it rented out faster. There is no compliance here. This will fit into any of the anti-WA, or some of the revenge subreddits. Well done. I started to assume that they'd need your late auntie's signature for something. Believe me, you wouldn't be the first. You didn't charge them interest? Lol. Yeah, you definitely don't have to pay the debts of the dead. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Cut to a few years from now where they now ask you for 500. Companies know for a fact that they generally can't collect debts owed by previous tenants or owners from the new ones. But it doesn't stop them from trying. For instance, when I bought my house, the company that supplied heating fuel tried to collect money owed by the previous owner for some fuel deliveries. They tried to argue that since I had the fuel, I owed the money. I had to have my lawyer explain to them that you don't just get to assign debts for non-titled bulk goods willy-nilly just because you want to, and that if they wanted to collect, they could go after the previous owner. They didn't protest after that. My uncle passed away in the UK and the landlord called my cousin in Minnesota and demanded she pay the rent. My cousin knew I was working at a law firm at the time and called me for advice because I guess file clerks just out of college should know something. What I did know was that in order to collect a debt in another country, you have to hire people, and that there was no way she was going to have to pay that money. She was not on the lease. For starters, it didn't dawn on me until later that they must have gone through his personal effects to get her number. I told her that if they call again, she could tell them to come and get it. So they called her and she said, "Sure, come and get it." They never did.
Nice. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.